Welcome to Satsang. Today I'd like to cover a very important law, the law of cause and effect. I find that many people are always asking, what do I do? I never know what I want out of life. What is my next step? What spiritual practice shall I do? People say it's simple, but I don't find it simple. The beautiful thing is that once you understand cause and effect, that very understanding itself will make you see that it is so incredibly simple. And I thought, how am I going to do that? So what I do is I ask the Holy Spirit, I go inside myself, and I got a word. And the word that came to me is the word CRIF. Now, please bear with me because it's going to make things much easier. But prior to explaining CRIF, I also got an email, and it went like this. Any of you have heard about Abraham? Channeled by Esther Hicks. And I thought this is so appropriate for the satsang. This is what Abraham said. There are so many things that you have been taught to believe that are counter, in other words opposite, to the powerful laws of the universe, that it is difficult for you to think your way out. And that is the reason that we present this path of much less resistance. We want you to breathe rather than try, to relax rather than offer effort, to smile rather than struggle, and to be rather than do. For your true power is experienced only from inside the being. So I thought that is perfect. Okay, now we come into the word CRIF. CRIF stands for 4 things that we have to do in order to work from our optimum alignment with Source, spiritual sense. Remember that you are a human being. Excuse me. Human is effect of the cause. The cause is being. Okay? So, stay with me here. Okay? Those of you listening to this. So you are a human being, which means that you are a being playing the human role. Human being. See? Cause and effect. Now, the one thing that is often stressed in spirituality is that you are cause. You come from cause, not effect. But because we think we are effect and human, then we struggle in everything that we do. Because it is the nature of the human to seek, to strive, to want, to desire. But what it is always after is its own being without realizing it. Okay, so what is that word CRIF? C-R-I-F. C is choice. Most, when we are in the human element and forget the being, we're totally confused about choice. 2, CRIF. R, responsibility. That's a big one. Okay. I, imagination. That's another big one. And F stands for forgiveness. Now, once we understand these 4, we see that we need do nothing with them but understand them. The moment we understand these 4, we automatically are in alignment with Source. And we are living the simplest life we can live, a very happy, peaceful, effortless life. Whether you have certain goals, whether you have certain ambitions or whatever it is, if you live by these 4 in their proper understanding of CRIF, it will happen automatically. You don't do anything. So let's go with the first word, choice. Now, choice is known by the human in a certain way, and it's known by the being in another way. Okay, by the human, this is a very interesting thing. Because the human, and all Advaita books tell you this, the human has no choice. In other words, the ego, the human ego has no choice. But the human thinks they have many choices. But the truth is that you don't have a choice because you're so conditioned. I'll tell you about my own case. I was brought up a Catholic. And right when I went to church, I was told, you are born in sin. Not just myself, everybody else. you know, Jesus died for my sins. What else? There's the devil. If I have sex before marriage, I might go to hell. And all these, I was brought up with these things. So naturally, I was a very shy, lonely teenager because I'm always afraid of doing the wrong thing. Excuse me. So when we are conditioned, another thing arises. We begin to think we have so many choices. Now people are asking me all the time, Bert, I know it's interesting and I've been reading these books, fine, but I don't know where I fit in. I don't know what to do. What am I here for? What is my purpose? I'm asked these all the time. See, these are all questions that are arising in us because we think we have choices. See, you really have no choice because it's all conditioning. So the moment you have a negative thought, you're negative. The moment you're emotionally hurt, you're hurt, you suffer immediately because you're conditioned. You see? And because you're conditioned, you really have no choice. You become what is called victim. But of course there are no victims, we know that. Okay? We're intelligent enough to know that. But we play as victims because we are victims of circumstances. Now, the paradox is that you have no choice, but you keep thinking you have many, many choices. And that's the mix-up, that's the confusion, that's the frustration. Then you begin to grow, and I'm assuming you begin to realize who you are, you have glimpses, and then you begin to say, but I do have choice. I have choice between fear and love. Love and fear. You see? I can choose love if I'm depressed. If I'm negative, I can choose that. And then of course, love being my nature, it's easier. And then you begin to realize, if my choice is either love or fear, which means I do have choice, when I am more aware, who in his right mind would choose fear? Like you said 2 weeks ago, right? So in truth, in other words, truth is choiceless. So we go back to the same thing. But the moment you realize truth is choiceless, you do have choice. You can choose to be miserable all you want, and you can still play the game. But because you're smarter and more intelligent, you choose happiness, you choose peace, you choose love. And you have that power. Why? Because now you're coming from cause, not effect. Now, if we look at the world, everything that you see in the world all around you is all effect from a cause. The cause is invisible energy, pure awareness, pure being. You see? So, when you come from cause, something else happens inside you. And that something else is very powerful. You are the cause of your own life. You actually chose to be born, and this will start coming to you as you begin to wake up. If you're miserable, you caused it. If you're living in an environment where it's a lot of suffering, you caused it. Okay? And not in one lifetime. It might have taken you many lifetimes, an investment in many energies in which it brought you to this point, you see, where you have chosen everything. But you see what happens when you begin to see that you have chosen everything that you are? And that's a beautiful thing, is that now you're in charge. You're no longer a victim. You're no longer a slave. You see? So everything that you are, you have chosen. So then, what happens when you think you have chosen? CRIF, R, responsibility. You start becoming responsible. But now you see, let's talk about responsibility. I had a woman, and she loved my videos on the internet. And she discovered them a year ago. And she just fell in love with these videos. And she plays them on her mobile. She plays them on her iPod. She took them to home with her. She listens to digital recorders at night. And she went for a long, long time just reliving, because there are close to 600 videos, I think. You know. So anyway, then one day I made a video by webcam, and in it I stated that we are 100% responsible. She came across this video and she became totally upset. And she went through a depression, but she never told me about it. Finally, she decided to write me and say, Bert, said, I have to tell you this. You really shocked me when you said, I am 100% responsible. Because how can I be? First you tell me there I am allness, I am one with all. And now you make me 100% responsible for everything that happens in the world? It doesn't make sense. So then I explained what responsibility means. You see, as a human, as an effect, we think responsibility is a heavy one. I'm responsible for my parents, I'm responsible for my job, I'm responsible for this, I'm responsible for the world, right? But in truth, responsibility is a very beautiful thing. It's not an effort. It's not a burden. It's a wonderful thing. Responsibility is response-ability. The ability to respond moment to moment in awareness. You see? And that's how we understand choice and takes us to responsibility. So here we are. You know, I get up in the morning and all of a sudden maybe I start thinking this way or that way. I respond to it. You see? And I have choice. If I'm thinking negative thoughts, I have a choice to say, no, Holy Spirit, you take over. I think your thoughts, which are more loving and more powerful and more beautiful. You see? So here, this is responsibility. And a responsibility, a woman one time, she said to me, Bert, I never want to miss your, this was a few years ago, I never want to miss your satsangs. And she has a son, and she always has the same babysitter. And one day she called me up and she said, Bert, I'm terrible. I don't know what to do. My son is sick, and I'd like to come, but I've never missed. And I said to her, what is your responsibility right now? Your ability to respond at this moment. What is it? My son is sick. I said, stay with your son then. Simple, right? There was nothing to come up with. It's no rocket science here. It's a matter of seeing what is in the moment. Ability to respond. That's all responsibility is. See, now we are learning from the human, we're going into the being, to be. You see? So when a person is happy and free and playing and loving life, they are being responsible. Responding to the moment as it is. You see? And when you come from happiness, when you come from love, you see, you always have more compassion and more understanding. Because you see, another thing that we're going to discuss is that when you bring it upon yourself that you are responsible in a human way, effortful way, you carry a burden. When you carry a burden, the cycles of the brain increase. You know what cycles are. You identify with activity as being you. You activate. In other words, you identify with the doer. And when the cycles increase in the brain, you can lose your perspective and clarity to the point where you say, I'm confused, I don't know anything anymore, I don't know where I'm going. You see what I mean? Because that's what happens. And this is why it's important for us to enter the alpha brainwave level, become very still, and then you bring the cycles down to about 7, which is called the alpha. So the beta level of the average person, okay, is about 20 cycles per second. This means they're identified with being a doer. 20 cycles per second. If it goes to 30, you can have close to a nervous breakdown. I'll give you an example what happens when the cycles get very high. I believe it was Walmart, but I could be wrong here. There was a department store in the United States, and they decided to make a big sale. And they brought down everything, 75% of all the stuff in the department store. But it's only for one day. So a lot of people gathered in front of the store. For when it opens, they rush in and get all the good stuff. What nobody is understanding is that by being so anxious to get, the cycles are increasing. Anyway, so the guard opened the door for the people to come in. You know what happened? They stampeded in and they killed him. It's a true story, and it was reported in the paper. They stampeded. Now, why did that happen? Because the cycles were so high, they became insane. In the Old West, vigilante, you know, you excite the people that he killed, you don't even need proof, you go and hang him. You see what I mean? So this is the mentality when the cycles increase, and this is why we need to slow down. And when you slow down, you become clearer and clearer and clearer. The less you think, the more creative you become. Paradox, isn't it? Because we think that creativity, you have to think to be creative. But creativity are when you're open and you get this flood of energy coming through. You know, when I want to know something, like the word CRIF, for example, I talked to the Holy Spirit and I said, help me. How to make it simple in these four. And to identify it as pure awareness. It has nothing to do, but just to be aware. And immediately I got up and I got this message. See, there was no thinking involved. It was simply emptying bird so that another energy takes over. Okay, so now we talked about responsibility, and we are very responsible when our cycles start to increase. You need to stop and be quiet. Because if you don't, the next step is going to be an argument. The next step is going to be conflict. The next step is going to be doing something that you're going to regret. See what I mean? So therefore that's our responsibility. Okay, now CRIF, imagination. You know, did you know that nothing that you see and experience is anything but imagination? And the moment you begin to realize that, such a peace comes to you. Because you take nothing seriously. And the moment you know that it's imagination, then you learn to be creatively imaginative. You see? And when you become creative, and you know it's imagination, then something else takes over. You begin to learn to play, to relax, to be. You see? If you take imagination to be serious and to be real, then this is how we get sick, and this is how the cycles increase. Okay, is that clear about what I'm saying now? Okay, are there any questions? Why is it that when we take imagination to be real, now everything is imagination, everything except the awareness of imagination. Got it? Everything is imagination except the awareness that it is imagination. So awareness is not imagination. Okay? Now, when you know that, you're always at peace because you take nothing seriously. Okay, that's very clear, right? Okay, so now we move to the CRIF part. We covered C, choice, R, responsibility, I, imagination. Everything is imagination. I know I'm driving this home here, but I know how important it is, especially when I realized it. And F is forgiveness. Now, people are often telling me, you know, how do you forgive? How do you do this? How do you do that? All you have to do is understand choice, responsibility, and imagination. And forgiveness is right there. Forgiveness is doing nothing, because there's nothing to forgive. But you might say, but why use the word forgiveness if there's nothing to forgive? And forgiveness is doing nothing. Because forgiveness becomes a reminder that there's nothing to forgive. You see? So therefore, if somebody abuses me, and I suffer from that abuse, I have to see that nothing happened. Got it? Why? We have to go back to choice, responsibility, imagination. Somehow or other, I've created that situation for me to learn. You know, I get so many people, they say to me, Bert, how do you deal with people when they're always angry? You go to work and they're angry and this thing, and everybody I associate with, I see so much anger all around me. And then you know what I answer, and I try to do this as lovingly as possible. I say, what is it in you that draws this anger to you? Because the anger in you draws this. You see? So in other words, if I'm abused, if somebody did something to me, I have to take responsibility, the ability to respond. What is it in me that drew the situation, that brought it about? You see, I don't have to figure it out. I'm using these terms. It seems like a reasoning ability, but you don't have to go through this analysis. You begin to see that all you have to do is remember that forgiveness has nothing to do with forgiving in the conventional sense. It is to see that there's nothing to forgive, because everything is imagination that we have created. It has become real, you see? And it has become so real to us that we fight against it. When you fight against something that you think is real, it fights back. And before you know it, your cycles have gone to such an extent that you go to a psychiatrist, he gives you drugs, and now you're a mess for life. Okay? So this is what is happening most of the time. When you follow these four, okay, and these four all work together. I repeat: choice, responsibility, imagination, and forgiveness. By understanding these three, you understand forgiveness. The last, the CRIF word, the F was left at the end, because unless you understand these three, you don't understand what forgiveness is. You see? Because people are always telling me, like, I had a woman, she came over to me, she spent a fortune to spend a weekend, and to see me here, she paid in advance, and she's a lovely woman, very intelligent, very bright, but she wanted to come to what I give supersentient sessions, and so she was in a situation, and I don't want to go into detail here, where she needed to forgive, but she wouldn't forgive. Now, there is no book on spirituality that she hasn't read. She's very bright, very intelligent, highly educated. Okay? But something has happened in a relationship that she just won't forgive her partner, her ex-partner. Okay, she felt so abused, so betrayed. So I worked with her, on understanding the process, what has happened. We went into Enneagrams to see, and she's very well versed with Enneagrams, how we act the way we do. But when she went away, and she still hasn't forgiven, and I said, you will find that you might have learned something, what we did together, but your pain that you're carrying now is going to stay with you. I said, because until you forgive it. She wrote me back after 2 weeks, and she said, I feel very sad. And I told her, I said, yes. I said, because forgiveness is the only thing we need to do. It's called surrender, it's called letting go, it's called many things. But without forgiveness, there is no growth, there is no expansion. Okay? It's not possible. And also I found out she didn't want to forgive because she felt if she forgave, she would be given in to this person who betrayed her. And she would feel like a victim. You see? And I told her, I said, it takes tremendous strength to see it as it actually is. You see? So anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that forgiveness is the ultimate thing that brings the growth. Okay? Now, if a person forgives after a day, that's one day they have lived with pain. If they forgive after 1 hour, then it's only 1 hour that they've suffered in pain. But the moment you forgive, by seeing that there's nothing to forgive, immediately you have healed yourself. So what is it that heals again? It is the cycles of the mind. The moment you forgive, you begin to forget. The moment you forget, you don't think about it anymore. The moment you don't think about it, the cycles drop. The moment the cycles drop, you move from effect into cause. See, that's why, in Buddhism they do mindfulness meditation. It is quite effective, for people to actually see what their mind is telling them and what they're thinking. And to become mindful of what is the mind is producing. But when you start actually understanding how forgiveness works, and you begin to forgive, that very process of forgiveness puts you into silence, brings you into here, into now, into this moment. And the moment you become into this moment, then everything that you wanted to learn about spirituality is right there, because there's nothing to understand. You see? Now tell a person who's very intellectual, who have been reading a lot and who trying to understand spirituality, and tell them that there's nothing to understand. You might have a fight on your hands because they get very upset. And say, what do you mean there's nothing to understand? But literally, there is nothing to understand, because it's all about being. To be. You see? Not to do, but to be. And the question is, but if I be and not do, how do things get done? How do they get done? How, Jesse? How do they get done, things, if you be and not do?
You go to sleep. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. So somebody can tell me this? If you don't do, and you need to do because you're in a world of doing, right? But if you be instead of doing, how does doing get done?
Well, if you are being, then you are drawn or respond to what is there.
Beautiful.
And therefore,
that's it.
You're present with what you need to meet or
right.
respond to.
That's right. So, yeah, you respond. You don't take anything personally because everything is imagination. You respond to it, responsibility, you see? And you've made that choice to go with the energy. You see? So the moment you wake up that there is no choice, there's also a part in you that chooses. You see the paradox here? This is a cause-effect type. Life is cause-effect, human being. Okay? So everything is cause, and everything that you experience in life, you are causing. See, there's nothing but you. So the one thing that we don't understand, there was a book. I went with Sylvia, we went to the library, and she was looking at Zen, Buddhism, and these books, which I love too. And there was a beautiful book, it's called Open Secret, and I think it was that book. Yeah. And I looked it up, and the moment I looked it up, there was a phrase written by this Buddhist master, Si To Pu, something like that. He lived maybe 100 years ago, and he made a statement, and that statement hit me just like somebody with a hammer over the head. And he said, I am not, but the universe is myself. Do you understand that?
Say it again.
I am not, but the universe is myself. And in those few words, all truth is embodied. Everything is embodied in that statement. Do you want greater clarification about this? Mm-hmm. Okay. When you begin to see that you are a human being, really a being playing the human role, you're like the ocean. The ocean is one. It's huge, it's vast. But on its surface, the slightest wind, it creates waves. Each wave is unique, separate, and different from the other waves. The lifespan of a wave is about a millisecond. So it's constantly moving, right? So the surface of the ocean is just movement. This movement creates what are called waves. Now picture a human being, a human, as a wave. But of course the lifespan of a human is about 100 years, whereas a wave is a millisecond. Okay? But apart from that difference, is that every wave is unique expression. You see? So we are all unique expression of oneness. Each one is unique. But that uniqueness is how the universe is appearing in your particular case. But you are not. I am not. Because I am not separate. I am one with all the waves. In other words, I am the ocean itself. You see? Are you with me so far? Each wave is the ocean itself, is the water. All are the same water. Yeah.
So would it be okay to say the ocean waves with me? In other words,
you can say that, you see, because that's right. Because you see, he realizes he's not a wave. That's just a movement. He is the ocean. So therefore, I am not. I'll include a wave.
Right. That's it.
Okay, but the universe, the ocean, is myself.
Right.
And everybody that I see is myself too. And that's why love is the oneness. Love is the connection. Love is the wholeness of life itself. See, we are all that one. So, so that statement, I took it to bed with me. I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And I said, I don't want to think anything else or feel anything but this statement. And it's amazing. And then the next day, more feelings come, more glimpses of oneness come to you because you give into it, see? So, okay, so now I've covered CRIF. Are there any questions about CRIF? Choice, responsibility, imagination, and forgiveness. Yes?
I may be understanding this wrong, but it seems to me that all of that is encompassed within forgiveness alone.
That's right.
Right? Because the others are just circumstantial, right?
It's ways to understand forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. So the others are ways in which we can understand that forgiveness is the path to wholeness. You see? And why do we need